Hey, Interhumans. I'm back. Yeah, so last week was a bit bogus. I don't have really any information on that situation because obviously, the AI bots at TikTok didn't really let me know what happened with that situation, but at least I got to come back. So, the topic today is about names, and it's something that's always been like quite puzzling to me, mostly because, as some of you by now know, I do have autism, and to something that I've noticed, not just for me, but like a lot of people with the same problem, is that we struggle with cues and titles and things. So, especially the fact that like everything has to have a name, a set name, especially that has always been something that bothered me a lot. It's something that really helped me when I was a English teacher before I became disabled, because I was noticing that when I was preparing kids for their IELTS exam, for example, um, they were so focused on accuracy when they were taking, especially their spoken exam. Now, the reason there's that difference is because when you're doing a spoken exam, you have a little bit less time to think about the words before they come out. Like when you're doing a written exam, you have, say, 3 hours to write a 180 word uh, paper. So that's quite a lot of time. But if you're sitting for an hour just having to have a conversation with another person, especially if you're in your second language, for some people it's their third language, even, it gets really, really difficult to focus on accuracy. And I had this one student, she was beautiful. I'm not gonna say her name because of like obvious reasons. But she was always struggling with getting her words out because she always got stuck on what the actual word is. In other words, what the designated name to this word, like object was, or the designated name for any sound that she really had to put in a sequence. And she always had this really cute thing where, like, whenever we were talking, she would say, "Ma'am, you use such delicious words." And I always thought that was really, really cool because it's such a creative use for the language. And it just again reiterated with me the fact that like people tend to put a lot of stake on words, and words quintessentially are names, whether it's a pronoun, whether it's a person name, whether it's a verb. Even a verb has a name because when you're doing this, that's called moving. It's got a name. So to take that a bit further, I've come to realize that, especially when it comes to naming people, we all have certain names in our lives. Like, I'm sure. Oh, yeah, by the way, thank you all for coming here. Like, I've noticed how busy live feeds have become. So, thank you for choosing me right now. But the thing is that I wanted to say is like, when we talk about names, you usually, and especially if I'm going to choose emotions, there's going to be certain names that pop up with you. And anytime you hear these names, this emotion, feeling, or thought tends to come up with you as well. And, like, just to think of a few names. So, like, I've noticed a lot of people have, especially when it comes to girl names, there tends to be a lot of stories around Nicole's, which not called like it's not specific, it's just the name that's coming up. Then the other name that comes up a lot is like Bianca, or let's think about the whole Karen epidemic that we had, and we've got Steve, and we've got all of these names, like a lot of Afrikaans people, for example, really feel averted to the name Johan for some kind of reason. And it's quite interesting that you kind of, if you hear a story about someone and you ask someone what their name was and you hear this name, a lot of the times you're going to be like, oh yeah, of course, that's such a whatever the name is thing. So I'm just like starting to wonder, could it be that people over time, because especially to be able to overgeneralize something like, oh, that's such a this person thing, did people choose names based on character traits? Or because if you think about it, babies are usually named before they're born. So how do a lot of people with these names tend to orbit into certain characteristics, certain ways of being? Um, and then also, or does the name at the end define the person? Is there something to that? Like, if you think about the whole philosophy of the law of attraction. Sorry, guys, I've got major brain fog. That's why I'm like pushing through right now. But if you think about the whole law of attraction thing, where they're saying, and like manifestation and all of these things, when you think about it, like people are always saying that you need to speak it into reality. You need to like use the right words. You need to use the right images. You need to do all of these things to get the right picture out there. So does this apply then to human names? Because does does that kind of, and please chime in at any moment to save me from this, but is there some kind of reality to the fact that maybe the name a person gets given at birth has some kind of, oh, I like that last name, talking about names, Oberholzer. I had a friend that had that last name as well. I freaking love that last name. But yeah, like, does a name have some kind of power? And by a parent giving a kid a certain name, does that kind of like carry in to the rest of their life? By constantly calling them this name, are you manifesting certain behaviors? Are you manifesting certain character traits? Or is it a coincidence? Because when you think about, like, for example, Mr. Carl Jung, who I know has come up a lot in controversial discussions lately because people don't tend to understand his psychology very well, and then they like to kind of, well, let's just be fair, every psychologist that had ever had the nerve to be published has been scrutinized and adulterated at some point to validate someone's debate. But Carl Jung used to call, he didn't believe in coincidences. He usually spoke about synchronicities. So especially when it came to dream theory and stuff like that, he was like quite adamant about the whole like synchronicity thing. But the thing that I'm wondering is that when it comes to names, is there some synchronization to that? Because let's be fair, we all are on some kind of camp when it comes to the whole metaphysical side of our existence and our world and the things that happen in our lives. And I'm just wondering that by naming something, by naming someone, are we creating a universe in which this person is going to end up being someone very specific? And if that happens, is there a way for you as an individual? Because like a lot of us do believe in the fact that like we can like write our own path and choose our own destiny. And that's the one thing that I really like about queer politics at the moment. The fact that like people are advocating for the fact of choosing your own name later in life, which I'm personally one of those people that I was born with a name. I have a government name. And then over time, with my friend groups, the type of music that I was listening to, the type of activities that I was doing, my name changed. And it even got to a point where, like, because I was named after my opa, and my name had changed due to my friend group. But even my opa, even he at some point started calling me by my new name. I almost said nominer. What the fudge is a nom? Is it a nominer? Being called by is a nominer, I guess, in math. Am I even pronouncing that word right now? Ah, this is why names bother me, because like I can't even pronounce them accurately all the time. Even my birth name is quite interesting. Let me tell you. Okay, let me tell you the story. So my birth name was supposed to be Danny Hell. That was supposed to be my birth name. But then when the whole thing was happening with my baptism, because I was baptized as a little kid in Geerkerk in Paro Valley. But so when I was being baptized, the dominee, he really struggled with this pronunciation, Danny Hell. And he knew that my name was for my opa, and my opa's name is Daniel. So then when he baptized me, instead of saying Daniel, he said Daniel. And it's spelled like the English Danielle, or in Afrikaans they say Danel, which neither of those were even in calculation at all. But then Daniel turned into Daniel, and then my family just kind of decided, like, oh, okay, well, she was introduced to God with this name, so, like, that's gonna be her name now. So I became Daniel. And then when I went to high school, I had this really good friend, Angus. He's still out there in this world. Still talk. I haven't spoken to him in a while, but like still have contact at least. But we started this kind of like little group where we were making like, because both of us liked drawing. We actually drew more than we did working class. And we were like having, because this was like early days of YouTube, so both of us had this idea of like eventually starting like an online YouTube series with like our little drawings, but we needed names for it. And so he coined the name Dana, and that stuck. That was what became my name. Even today, like my sister's kids call me Dana, my mom call me Dana, except when they're trying to be very sarcastic, then they will call me Danielle. But yeah, like that just stuck. I became Dana. But even Dana is not always how my name comes out, because some people pronounce it kind of like Donna. Other people say Dana, like especially to the Afrikaans side of things. Even the spelling, it's 4 letters. It's Dana. And even the spelling sometimes can be Donna or Danna. So it's like, the whole controversy on names is just absolutely obscene, because if you think about it, like just looking at all of the fantastic names, just as an example coming in here now, like some of these names, and that's why I don't greet people by name the way that most live people do, by the way, is not because I'm not super grateful for the fact that you guys come in here. It's literally because I am going to butcher a lot of your names, and I don't want anybody to feel like they are being left out or like I am disrespecting them by pronouncing their names incorrectly. But like that was a good name. Zanmiri, my best friend, is here. Yay! But yeah, so like that's like the big reason I don't say the names coming in here. I do see all of you guys, and if I was faster on a keyboard, I would like click the little high thing, but like I do not have the concentration ability for that. So yes, thank you guys, but it is to me, it's so freaking cool watching all these, like the one name that I'm gonna pull out right now, there's Isa. So it's ISA, which is really close to another word that I learned recently, or makes me think of the word for ice in Denmark, because like I have been learning Danish recently, which has also been a really cool a really cool thought thing for me, because people always draw Afrikaans very close to Dutch, which is fair. It's like one of the biggest base languages, and like I don't even think Danish gets mentioned when it comes to like the languages Afrikaans came from. But learning Danish has actually come to a point now where I'm starting to notice that there are, in fact, a lot of our words that are very similar to their words, even though they have like 3 extra letters to their alphabet, and even the rest of their alphabet is pronounced in ways that we probably. Guys, like, honestly, though, there's sounds in that language that's like. I feel. Apparently, I sound Swedish when I speak Danish. That's like. That's that. But the point is that I'm trying to make is that when given a name, even that name isn't guaranteed because it depends on the language ability of the person reading the name, the person hearing the name. It's literally like every single time this whole thing like every time your name gets passed, your name seems to take on a different little nuance because names aren't just tied to random sounds. Names get tied to feelings. Names get tied to circumstances, events, things like that. And it's just, again, like the question of like, does our names define who we end up being? Or do we choose to become our names? Is it a I really struggle with the word coincidence because I also kind of like the whole synchronicity thing with Carl Jung. But I'm just trying to think, like, can a person be blamed for their actions if the name that they were given, maybe this is a controversial question, I don't know, but can a person be blamed for their actions if the name that they were given ends up being their downfall? Because let's think about the whole like thing, add source, that's a new function. Anyway, so like let's think about the whole thing of like what happened to certain names once certain historical events happen. So for a really long time, most countries in the world made it illegal to name your kid Adolf Hitler, or like anything to do with that. I think it's like mostly still illegal, but then there was this controversial case in America a while ago where like parents named their kid that, and then like the kid got taken away, but apparently they had like a bunch of kids and all of them had controversial names, so there's that. And then like, but like that's a thing that suddenly this name, like if you go back on birthing registers, I'm sure these names had so many usage, like so much usage, like just the fact that like the word like Karen, since the whole Karen apocalypse happened, people have stopped naming their kids Karen, and it's like the name has just like changed its meaning. But now what I'm wondering is it that the person is living up to their name, or is it that we I'm not gonna I don't know what guests are. Requested to join as a guest. I don't know what that is, and I'm not gonna accept it until I do. So sorry about that. Because I'm assuming it has something to do with like co-hosts or stuff, and like I don't necessarily want a stranger chiming into my discussion, which like I do at some point. It's just like if I don't know you, I need to kind of keep my environment safe, myself safe, the people who chime in here safe. I was just blocked last week because like someone apparently had some kind of vendetta against me and then reported me for sexually explicit content. So there's like that. So sorry about that. If your intentions are pure, I really do apologize. It's just like I don't feel safe doing that with people that I don't know. But yeah, like, do people live up to the name, or do we have a preconceived notion of what a certain name means, and then we try to kind of like find like character similarities in this person, kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way. So the person doesn't actually really have the chance to prove themselves, because like from the get-go, even if you know it or not, you're probably like counted against them in some kind of way. Sorry, Gotta drink water. Water is important. Anyway, um, but the other thing, so like usually when I do these, I go and watch a few videos in preparation and stuff, and the one thing that kind of bewildered me and upset me quite a bit, because I was just really not understanding how it's possible. But with all of the things that we know, there's one question that nobody seems to really be able to answer, which I guess is fair. The world has been around for a really long time, but the question that begs answering, that I have been trying to find an answer to, is why do we name things? And like the most general answer is usually for like simplicity of action. But the thing is that we don't have one name for things. And like oftentimes, like if you think about a toddler that's speaking, a toddler will name something completely wrong and you will know exactly what it is. So how important is it then to actually have a name for stuff? And I just want to know why. Why? A lot of people have even struggle are like even struggling on the answer of how. Like, where does the names come from? So one of the videos that I'll like link to the highlight reel when the time comes. In the video, it's about how our written language actually evolved, and how it came from like hieroglyphs and all these like imageries to where it actually became letters and words that made sense at the end of the day. And it's really cute. I think it was the book. They reference a book in there, and I think the book's name is like Ox is for A, because the letter A, as we know it today, came from like the symbol of an ox, for example. And the one thing that I found really interesting was the letter R. The letter R came from the image of like a side profile of a head. That's what like turned into the letter R. So I found that quite interesting. And the weird thing is, like, if you go and look at the video when the time comes, because like I don't know if that's what that ad source thing is for. I don't know. But like if you go and like look at this video when I post it, you will see, because like I immediately knew it when I saw the picture of this head, because like the head's ear made like kind of like a picture of an R. But then they also do the devolution thing where they show how the head has like over time like changed into the R. The same thing they do with the ox, where like the ox is a bit more easy because you kind of flip it upside down and you make it sharp. But like the R is quite cool, how they like took this ear, turned it into something that doesn't look like that, and then brought it back to the R shape. So that was really cool for me. But like the thing is, like, even something like the letters, because letters are the things we use to learn the sounds we pronounce. Because a lot of our spoken language, especially, that's like something that I've learned now with like when I'm learning Danish, it's really important to learn the alphabet of a language. Like you can try it as just like a spoken medium, but the thing is that you're kind of at a deficit when you're only learning a language as a spoken medium, because you don't understand the sounds that you're using, you don't understand the words that you're using. You're kind of going on memory and repetition. But like the moment you start actually learning the sounds of the letters of the language, you start to kind of understand how the words come together more, and that like kind of increases your chances of fluency. And the reason I keep pulling back to the word fluency is that fluency is to know the exact name of everything and knowing how it plays into the verb tenses, because like not every noun has the same kind of tenses that work in the same way. Like you can say he walked to the store, but you can't say he ran to the store, because it's he ran. So knowing the sound kind of changes the name, changes the word, changes the sound, changes the meaning. But that's like why I know I'm like going on to words right now, but I really like words and I really like language. And I know I'm not technically talking about names anymore, but I am. I am talking about names because words are names. This sound's name is sound. So like it is a name. And I know, but, okay. But the point that I'm trying to get onto that I'm like really struggling with brain fog today. By the way, did you guys see my gecko? Look at my gecko. My best friend Zamarie gave it to me for my birthday. His name is Victor Pascal. And he's very cute and wiggly. And I like him. Anyway, so his name. Yeah, name. Love names. No, I don't. I don't love names. Because like I feel like I've started on like a million ways of explaining the same thing and I haven't like actually come to the conclusion of anything yet, and I do apologize for that. But like the big thing that I'm trying to reach on, again, going back to where I started, was the whole thing that does a name define the thing, or does the thing define the name? Because again, I gave this little gecko a name, for example. And I'm sure if you look at him, you give him a different name. You might think of orange gecko. You might think of 3D printed gecko. You might think just gecko. You might just think like, that doesn't really look like a gecko. It's more a chameleon. Like, that's my point. Like, it's one singular object. It's one thing, one static little thing. It's changing. Not too changing, but it's changing. But the big thing that makes it change is the names that people assign to it. Whether those names are adjectives, whether those names are verbs. Because like you can say wiggly. Whether it's just a noun as like 3D printed object. Like you can give it a personification, which is also a type of name. Because you can like say like it's a little guy. So it's like a person. Because it's like you give it a personality. You give it existence. And all of those things are adding names and personality to a very, I guess, basic little thing. And that doesn't just stay with the little gecko. It kind of comes on to me. It goes on to all of the people in this little thingy right now, which there's quite a lot of you guys. Sorry that I haven't said hello again. I'm really bad at that. But all of you have names, and I'm sure this is your screen name, but I'm sure in your real life, those screen names are tied to a bunch of different names. It could be nicknames, it could be birth names, it could be verbs, nouns, adjectives. It's like literally every single word that we use is somehow tied to a name. Because for us to use a word as a descriptive thing, it's a name. And I know that makes it really complicated because people tend to think of names as something only exclusively held to nouns. But even just the word noun is a name. An adjective is a name. The word that you use that refers to an adjective, like orange. Orange is the name of this color, but orange is an adjective. It's not a noun. So the name then is not for a noun anymore, but it's still a name. And if you think of any word that you use, it's the name of a meaning. It carries a meaning, and you use this assigned value, this name, to carry that meaning. So, by extension of that, guys, I am struggling. Anyway, by extension of that, when we use a name incorrectly, does it change the meaning of the object? Or does it kind of stay the same? Because the big thing is, when you think about it, again, coming back to a little toddler naming a thing. Like, one of my nephews used to call a spoon, which in Afrikaans is a lepel. He used to call a lepel a appel. Because the sound was similar to him. And we always knew that if he asked for an apple, he wanted a spoon. And did it somehow magically turn the spoon into an apple? No, it didn't magically turn the spoon into an apple, but the spoon became an apple in our minds because of how it was translated to him. And it's the same as all of these fictional languages that people make up, and I think like J.R.R. Tolkien, Toast to the Professor. I think he did a really good job at that when he like did the whole Elven language and the Dwarven languages and all that type of stuff, and like a bunch of other people. And that's the thing, like, again, coming back to languages, and I feel like I'm hammering on languages a lot, but like I love languages so much. Anyway, if you go, like, this is the name that has stuck now through this whole little 30-minute rant. If you talk about, there's two names in the Afrikaans community, and I am sorry if this is your name. I'm not trying to diss you or anything, but like, there are two names that I have found in the Afrikaans community. People tend to kind of like shy away from these individuals or talk behind their backs, but it's Johan and Andre. Now, I don't know which other country the name Andre comes from, but I do know where you can find a whole bunch of Johans, and that's like going up to the Netherlands. And in the Netherlands, something that I found very interesting was the fact that a lot of people, even if their birth name was Johan, tended to choose a different name. They didn't choose to be associated with Johan. They would usually make the name smaller, which I know is really interesting because it's not like a profusely long name. But they chose not to go by that name. It's the same with the name Jan. They also like, it's one of their blah, 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 blah. It's one of their like big names that they just like chose to kind of like shy away from. And like, I guess lucky for them, most people there get two names, which helps a lot because then they just kind of like snick onto the second name. But in South Africa, I've noticed with the Afrikaans community actually as well, like it's a name that's become less prevalent. Where like, in my generation, for example, we still have like a whole bunch of Johanneses, but none of them go by Johan anymore. Like, I don't think I've met someone in my generation. The generations before me, yes, but because like I'm like a middle millennial, so in the millennial category, like the moment it, like even in Gen X, there's like not that many that I've known. The boomers have a lot. There's a lot of Johan still in the boomers, and it's like I'm just wondering why there are certain names that over time they build up a connotation and people don't want those names anymore. And it's like, again, the question stands. Is it a coincidence that these people tend to attract to these names? Or, because like, as I said, kids usually get named before they're born. I don't think I've ever met someone that waited for the kid to pop out before they gave it a name. And I'm just always wondering, like, if your name somehow defines who you're going to be. And I asked this question earlier, but nobody answered me, and you don't have to answer me. Like, that's not a prerequisite to this thing. It's like really interesting if you guys do. I really love it when you guys answer me because like, yeah, I get really, I like not just talking to myself the whole time. But the question that I still ask is, how responsible can someone be held for who they end up being if their name somehow defines who they're gonna be? And even like that, like if you think about like in Zootopia, the whole narrative that they were trying. Hi Tiso. Thank you for saying hello. So the thing that it like the underlying message for me in Zootopia was like the whole like thing of like don't don't judge a book by its cover. Like, just because it was Nick was a fox didn't mean that he had the character traits of a fox. Yes, before he met Judy, he did choose to live by those character traits, but it was because people automatically defined him that way. So I'm just wondering, and like I guess it does feed back into that nature versus nurture episode that I did a while ago. But it just feeds back into that. Like, do we, by extension of giving someone a name, do we somehow accidentally end up defining them? Do we somehow program who they're going to be because of their name? And is it something as small as just the fact that you're repeatedly calling them by this chosen name? Or is there actually like some kind of, how do you call it? Like, is there somehow like some kind of automatic reflex in people's brains that when they, which like for me, I personally know for me there is like there are certain names in this world that if I hear someone has that name, I will probably avoid them. And like again, this could just be like a symptom of my autism. I don't know if it's something that other people do as well. But like if a certain name has affected me in a certain way, I tend to stay away from people that have the same name. And then there's other names that the moment I hear them or see them, I get like the fact that there's a Kenny that just joined. Like, come on, people. Like, the moment I see the name Kenny, I think of South Park and it's like, oh my God, they killed Kenny. And it's like their names have that kind of power. And I'm just wondering that, like, by those kind of connotations pre-programmed into our brains by like what happens in our world, does that end up defining a person's character? Does it somehow choose who they're going to be for the rest of their lives? Or is it just as powerful as the fact that they have a name? But like I would gander, which this is kind of why I like doing these lives, because a lot of times I end up asking a question and somehow it like seems to give me some kind of conclusion that I didn't think of before. But like I would actually wager that like the name itself doesn't have the meaning. It's the meaning assigned to the names by those outside of it. Because like for example, the thing with Kenny just now, that guy probably doesn't wear a orange little hoodie that like has like this much of his face sticking out. Like he doesn't. But I see the name Kenny and then I think of South Park and that's who I see. And I can like probably pick out any of the names here to do that with. That was just like the most convenient one because it like triggered a verbal, like one of my famous verbal stems that is like, oh my God, someone killed Kenny. But like, that's the thing. Like, I promise you, not everyone, like some people haven't watched South Park before. So they might not have that instant response to the name Kenny. And I know I keep picking out names and I'm really sorry if I'm offending anybody by doing that. But like I feel like that we tend to assign a meaning to a name. But now I want to bring it back to the whole interpersonal thing when it comes to names. Because I have met people that have the same reaction as me to certain names, but it's not the same person. It's really just a different person that has the same name that basically did the same thing to another person that was done to me by another person by the same name. And I just find it weird, but like again, it could be synchronicities, it could be coincidences. Still really struggle with the word coincidence though. Or it can just literally be one of those self-fulfilling prophecy moments. It can be one of those moments where you say a thing and yeah, I'm going to tie it to synchronicities on this one, I think. Because the thing is, and maybe it's just my life. I don't know if it's just my life, if it's other people's lives. But I tend to see that, like, we tend to find what we're looking for. And there was this movie a while ago, quite a while ago, with Jim Carrey, The Number 23. And in that, the psychologist or psychiatrist, he refers to the fact that you can do it with any number if you really tried hard enough. 23 is just particularly good at this game. And I'm wondering if that's not the same with names. Because let's be fair, I have met people that have the same name as someone who has wronged me in the past. And then they did not have those same character traits. But I tend to always be kind of a little bit hesitant approaching people with certain names. And yeah, I think maybe that's the thing. Like, I think I'm coming to a point where I'm starting to understand my own little debate here. But I think that the main thing is that the name doesn't define the thing or the person. I think the big thing is that we define the name, and then in defining the name, we define objects or people for ourselves. So it's kind of one of those things where people just kind of do what people do, and we kind of like push for things that don't necessarily make sense. And it makes me a little bit sad because I was someone that, oh fudge, I dropped my gecko. I was someone who throughout the extenuant, like the process of my life, I'm someone who tended to be ostracized. I'm someone who tended to be called names, and I'm someone who, I'm sure many of you as well, like, aren't strangers to bullying or receiving bullying. Because even if something that I've found personally from just like watching working with kids, because I've been working, well, I was working with kids for about 12 years when I had to stop working. And the one thing that I always found was that, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe there are people who are just like inherently cruel, but in my experience, bullies were made. A lot of the kids who ended up being bullies were either kids with like very deep seated insecurities, or kids with abusive situations at home, or even just kids who were secretly bullied by other kids, but then just kind of decided, like, I'm not going to take this anymore, so they took a stand and became the bully. And a lot of that stuff is just based on names that kids got assigned, because the bully was assigned the dictation of being a bully, and a lot of them then somehow decide that it's worth sticking to that because it seems powerful. It has a name. It's powerful. Like, just if you think about, like, for example, myself, I worked with, the kids that I worked with were predominantly disabled, and I worked with a lot of autistic children. And when I was a kid, I was in therapy quite a fair bit, and a few times I was diagnosed, and then the choice was made not to medicate, which I don't know. Hey, Webster. But like, then what's happening on what? You're gonna have to be more specific on that one, Webster. I'm just talking about names. I'm talking about names and the values we assign to things with the names that we give, and how, like, a lot of times we tend to overgeneralize names in the sense of, like, saying that, like, oh, that's such a Karen. Like, let's just use the internet meme while it exists. So people will always be like, oh, it's such a Karen. But I promise you, you can find Karens out there that probably aren't that Karen. to be fair. Every woman that chooses that unfortunate bob hairstyle does not end up being a Karen. A lot of Karens can be overweight. A lot of Karens can be skinny. A lot of Karens have long hair. A lot of Karens has the typical like, can I talk to your manager? Like, and it's just like, we've assigned a value to that word. We've assigned the value of a Karen, and we've assigned the fact that like Karen is now a bad word. Whereas I'm promising you, in earlier years, the name Karen probably had a way different meaning. Like, someone came in here with the whole Kenny thing. Why can't you watch? I don't know if the lobby is full or something. That's so weird. Guys, is there an issue? Let me see if there's some issue. More chat settings. No, you don't seem to be the only one. Let me just type if there's people that can't see. Sorry guys. Something is up. Trying to fix it. Oh wow, I can't even type. Trying to fix the issue. Okay, there we go. Let me see. How can I fix this? How can I fix this? How can I fix this? Guys, I am so bad with TikTok. I still need to figure this thing out. I don't know what's happening. I honestly have no idea why it's not letting everybody in the whole time. It's so weird. I don't have that. I don't have that. I don't have that. I have no idea what's going on, peeps. I'm so sorry for that. Like, I'm hoping it sorts itself out somehow. I don't know what's happening. TikTok has just been possessed lately, and I don't know why. But I am sorry about that. I think if anybody knows where I can do a TikTok course, I will gladly do that for you guys. Like, because I have done a lot to learn about technology in my life, but I am not gonna lie. TikTok has definitely been one of the most interesting learning experiences of my life. It is not something that I have just been able to pick up and go with. It's been very interesting for me. But I'm sorry. I don't know if Webster made it in. I hope you did. If not, we'll try again next week. I'm sorry about that. I will also, I'm back posting lives. I back post lives onto YouTube. If you guys want to like do that, I'll put the link in the highlight reel at the end of this, by the way. So yeah, I'm sorry about that, but I will also post like a highlight reel. I'm sorry for the people who have been struggling to get in. I don't know why that's happening. I'm really sorry. Also, we've still got some time. But yeah, so back to names. And especially the topic of the bullying. So I just like a lot of people, when they get bullied or become the bully, it's usually because of names. It's because of the names that other people assign to them. If you think about every atrocity that has ever happened in our world, it has been because of names with negative connotations that have like somehow devolved the situation into something that's almost unrectifiable. I don't know. Names. There you go. It struggles. But the assigning of names seems to be something that can be either helpful or detrimental to people. And I feel a sadness for the fact that, like, I don't know if there's too many people watching at one time, because, like, it's quite interesting because, hi, Webster, I don't know if you're in, like, because it's not just Webster. There's a few of my regulars that have been experiencing this problem with the joining. So I'm just wondering if there's like a lobbying issue or something because of the whole incident that happened last week. I have no idea. I'm so sorry about that. I wish I knew how to fix it. Let me see. Da 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 da. Yeah, I can't change it. I'm so sorry about that. I need to figure out how this platform works more. But yeah, so names. Names are difficult. Names are, again, like, they can't, like, even when I went back on my research stuff, when I was like watching some videos and stuff for like some background knowledge on this, I still wanted to know why. I guess that's like my biggest downfall in this world is that word, why. I want to know why. And if you guys have some ideas as to why, I would really like to know why. Why do we have to name things? And if we have to name things, why do we have to include names that can damage a person? Why do we have to include names that can incite violence? Why do we have to include names? Because if you think about it, some of the oldest languages in our world, like Chinese, for example, the entire language is formulated out of 26 characters that they just pronounce differently. The controversial topic that has come up about the Lion King song, the guy that's like suing that comedian that thought he was funny and translating a very beautiful phrase, the husband. I can't pronounce the words accurately, but you know it. The intro to Lion King, there was this comedian that went on and like decided for himself to translate it into his own funny way. It's this beautiful song about like how the sun and the king are coming, like the king is coming, and he goes and tells people, it's like, oh look, it's a lion, it's a lion. No. Even if that was the direct translation, whenever it comes to languages like this, and that's why I like languages like this, because all of them have such deeper meaning than just the words that's being pronounced. And that's why I'm just trying to understand what this Western need is to name things, and why naming these things have become so important to the point where we almost lose meaning. We stop having meaning because, like, for example, if someone asks you, who are you? Most people in this world are going to answer by saying their name. And if you keep asking them who they are, they're going to keep repeating their name and they're going to get really frustrated with you and think that you're stupid. But it's because people don't seem to realize that a name isn't enough. A name needs to have substance. Some people can take it further by like answering with like another bunch of nouns instead of just saying their name. And just going for it and like saying, I'm a mother, I'm a father, I'm an aunt, I'm a niece, I'm a grandchild, like all of those things. But again, we're going for a name. And I'm just wondering, in this mad world and struggle to find meaning to things that might not have inherent meaning at all, I'm just really wondering, like, where is it going to end? Like, are we just going to end up having a bunch of meaningless words, but somehow decide, therefore, it now has meaning because we have a name for that? I don't know if names are such a good way of looking at things. Because If you look at poetry from many, many years ago, uh, wish I had one of my books closer, but I'm not going to get up now because it's too close to the end of the live. But if you look at poetry from years ago, especially if you go to someone like like Milton, is it John Milton? Milton. I have the book Paradise Lost. Anyway, if you look at his poetry, for example, he never speaks in a definitive voice. You can kind of see what the words are about, but like there's so much more to it than just the words on the paper. Whereas nowadays, we've got books being published by AI and people can't even notice because that's what we've turned into. We have turned into output data. We have turned into key search engines. We don't want narratives anymore. We want dialogues. We don't listen to understand, we listen to answer. We don't read to learn, we read just to have a story. Which, fair enough, like, stories are valuable. But if you're not really telling a story, if you're taking, like, a lot of these, like, books that, and, like, that's why, like, it's the whole, like, existence of smut has just become such a frustration to me. But if you're writing a book that literally you can take the whole storyline out and just leave the dialogue and you can still understand the story, then you're not reading a story, you're listening to gossip. And that is the problem I feel that I have found, or like am continuously finding in our reality in this world, is the fact that in this strive to get names, in this strive to add words, in this name struggling strive for freaking labels, what we've done is we've taken away from humanity and we've somehow established a narrative in which no word carries meaning anymore. You have people who can all speak English, yet somehow no one understands each other. You've got people coming from different countries saying the same words, but then somehow there's like a different cultural element to it. So you could be saying something completely innocent and they can find it offensive, even if they can hear that you're from a different country. Like, this is the thing that you need to understand, like how deep-seated this problem has become. People can hear that you're from a different country, and you can accidentally say something that in their country is incorrect. And instead of helping you, they will rather berate you and tell you you're wrong. Like, not tell you you're wrong even. They will just be rude and say that you're offensive and like horrible and like all of these beautiful freaking words that have absolutely no meaning because you didn't even know what you were doing. And yeah, as we're going into the last 2 minutes of this before they start like screaming at me with an alarm again, I just wanted to, I guess, end on that. Instead of trying to label everyone, instead of trying to like find names and assign meanings to names, what about you just listen? What about you just ask the person that you're talking to? Because most of the time, the things that we end up struggling with most in the society is understanding each other. And we're all speaking the same language. There's very few people in this world that can't speak English at this point. Yet somehow, none of us Oh, here we go again. Oh, I hate this thing. Anyway, yet somehow, none of us understand each other at all. And that's going to be it from me before I get a second alarm. But thank you all so much for being here. Thank you guys for joining in. This has been a really cool experience for me doing these lives. It's really fun. I enjoy it. And I am going to post some links about like words and the history of names on the highlight reel, I'll also post a link to my YouTube, because I have started on request to post back vlogs of the former lives, because some people have been missing out and then they wanted to like be able to catch up to that. So there is like a 2 week delay on that, but like I am slowly loading all of it back. And yeah, I try to do these every week. I try to. My like I am chronically ill, so sometimes it doesn't quite work out that way. I try to plan by Monday. So usually on a Monday I'll post the live event for the Thursday. If anything happens to change that schedule, I will usually update a live. I'll just update by like sending a. I'll just post a TikTok. Gosh darn words. Anyway, again, thank you guys so much for being here. And I really appreciate all of you. And I hope that you guys have a stellar evening ahead. Now I have to figure out the buttons to end this thing without making a mistake. Anyway, love you. Bye bye.